What is it like being a Jamaican in Botswana? Hi, I'm Xavier Murphy, the founder of Jamaicans.com. And today in Jamaicans to the World, I talk to Esau Waugh, a Jamaican living in Botswana. Esau, hi, how are you?
Hi, Xavier. I'm fine. It's good to be here.
Good, good. So the first thing, which part of Jamaica you come from?
Well, I'm from the hills. I'm a mountain man. So I am from actually the hills of St. Catherine, but just bordering on the hills of St. Andrew in Rock Hall, Sligoville, James Mountain, that area. So
All right.
I'm from that area of the island.
And which school you representing? You know we love our high schools.
Yeah, well, I actually went to a commercial school. I'm not sure if it's still in existence, but I went to primary school and then I went to this commercial school because I thought I was interested in accounting. But subsequent to that, I went to the JSA, the Jamaica School of Agriculture in Twickenham Park at the time. So
Oh,
JSA is my alma mater, basically.
uh, Twickenham Park. My mom used to work out there in Twickenham Park. Her office was out there in Twickenham Park. Nice memories for me.
Yes, nice
So,
memories for me too. But it's they moved to Paisley Gardens, I think, in Portland after some time.
okay. So, tell us your story. How did you get to Botswana?
Well, I came, it's a roundabout route. I was in Australia. I studied in Australia, did my veterinary program, and then I went home to Jamaica for a while. Then I came back to Australia, completed my PhD program, and then this job came up to come to Africa. And I thought how much more beautiful it can get, where one wants to acquaint oneself with the motherland and be working at the same time. So I thought it was an ideal opportunity to come to Botswana. This job came through the Australian Aid program at the time.
Okay. And how long have you lived there?
Hey, before you were born, uh, I've been here now since 1990. So it's quite
Wow.
a long time. But what's interesting is that I came here for just 2 years. The idea was to come for 2 years, and then 2 years turned into 4 years. And then I was looking forward to leaving after 4 years. Then I met my wife, and the rest is history. The time keeps snowballing and snowballing. Yeah.
Yes, yes. If does your wife want to wave on screen, or she wants to stay in the background?
She's here. She's at work actually. It's my daughter who is my
Okay.
technician here. Hmm.
Yes, a good
Yeah,
technician that too, a very good technician.
yeah. But come Lois, come and wave on screen. She wanna.
Yeah, come and say hi to the folks. All right, the technician.
She's a no Lois, my technician.
Okay. Well, that is good, and I hope Daddy teaching you some Jamaican patois and all about Jamaica.
Hmm.
Yeah, since I was born, we've been going traveling there, and we have family over there, so we always travel to see them. Yeah.
Nice. And what's your favorite Jamaican food?
I really like
Jerk and
I
what?
like jerk chicken and ackee, breadfruit. My favorite fruit, I think, is the jackfruit. I really like that one. Um, and then like sawfish is really nice. Ugh, I miss it so much. I wish I could just eat it right now.
Well, all right. I won't put you under the lights anymore. Thank you for joining
Okay,
us.
thank you for
All
talking.
right. Uh,
Yeah.
so I know that was improv, but I appreciate her joining.
That's fine. Yeah, that's nice.
so so Esau, tell us a little bit about the people. What are they like?
People are typical African people who are very down to earth, very peace loving, kind people. They're easygoing as well. When I came here, it was quite an adjustment for me because things moved quite slowly, and I was placed into some positions of, you know, supervision, authority, and so on. And most of the times when I ask somebody to do a job and the time passes, I usually end up doing a lot of it myself but people are very laid back. It's changing now because I've been here for a while, but
Okay.
people are very kind and very, very welcoming and very smart as
Nice.
well. And the woman, you want me to describe the physique?
anything you think will help to 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 um to give us the insight in the people. Now, remember,
Well,
you're a married man. You're a married man there, so you better watch
but
what you say.
I can still I can still express the realities, isn't it?
Yes.
But anyway, on a serious note, the men are you see some of the men on TV now running around the world, even beating some of our Jamaican guys. So the men are tend to be tall. In some tribes actually, some tribes are quite short. Like the people from the sands, they're a bit fairer and shorter. The women in general are of gentle disposition, and they have, how do I put this? Very unique Coca-Cola like
Chill.
conformation. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: how many tribes have you encountered or are represented there in Botswana?
There are quite a few. There are about 8 tribes, although spoken officially, there is one local language and English. English is the official medium, but there are other major tribes which tend to speak their own language. But yeah, so there are quite a diversity of languages within the mix.
Any
Recently,
custom?
there's been a
No, go
move
ahead.
afoot to teaching a kid in their own language is found to be quite beneficial in terms of the learning processes of the kid. So there's a move afoot recently to try and get the young students, like the primary school students, to be taught in their native tongue. And because there seems to be a tendency for the languages of the major tribes to dominate, and the kids who come from the smaller tribes tend to not do so well under those circumstances
Mm,
because they're not being communicated to in their native tongue, especially in the earlier years. So there's some move
mm.
to correct that.
Interesting, because I know that was a broader discussion in Jamaica at some point to teach and foundation in the Jamaican language.
Yeah, I think it's a helpful practice. I think if the child is not accustomed to English per se, then you teach them English as a subject, but as far as possible, if it enhances comprehension, then use what they know.
Yeah. Customs. Are there any customs that you found when you got there that was very interesting? It could be a marriage custom. It could be how people greet you when you come to their house? Anything that you recall that's interesting?
Yeah, I think the custom is quite African as well. They share practices with a diversity of countries and peoples, but the one which comes to mind is the marriage custom. There's a lot of celebration. You have to, as a man, fork out a lot of money if you are depending on the tribe, the number of cattle you pay, the number of heads of cattle you pay will depend on the tribe. But also in some tribes, if the woman is deemed to be of certain social standing or some certain educational standing, that may vary the price you pay. So that's one thing I had to get accustomed to the bride price. But a number of cultures do practice that anyway. So that's one interesting one, I thought. And
So
the ceremony itself. Okay, go on.
no, I was going to ask a question. You know, we're eager to know. Did you have to pay a bride price, and did you have to find some cattle?
Yeah, man, I had to pay, but I negotiated because I never knew the landscape very well and the farmers. I negotiated to substitute the heads of cattle for a price. So I paid in coin instead of cattle.
All right. And you were talking about the actual marriage, the wedding.
Yeah, the wedding. Usually there are two weddings at least. The one at the bride's place and one at the groom's place. So usually you have there are about three ceremonies actually. One is taking the lobola. This bride price is called the lobola. So you take that some days before to the bride's family, and there's an interesting custom. You go to the gate of the bride. Your party bearing the lobola would go to the gate of the bride, and they'd ignore you. If it's raining, if it's shining, they would provide an area for you to kneel down and wait until it pleases the uncle of the bride to come and engage you and receive the lobola and so on. So that part I found quite interesting and quite, well, I used to be quite upset when I see people go through this. But anyway, it's the custom. And then and then you would have the first party at the bride's house, and they'd kill the cow. They would prepare native dishes. There's one in particular they call the Esau. They'd boil the meat of the cow until it's very soft, and then they'd pulverize it, extract the bones, and then they would. It's like mincemeat, but a stringy kind of mincemeat. It's not as chopped up as the one you see in the supermarket. And after
Nice.
that, you would have very nice, yeah? And other local dishes. One called dinawa, which is a mixture of maize which is cooked and dried, and then a mixture of peas and beans with that. So very perfect, modern, wholesome, organic, healthy kind of dish. Yeah.
So
And then, yeah.
go no finish you were saying, and then go ahead.
Okay. Well, you consume that at the bride's place, a lot of dancing, and they choreograph a lot of local dances. Very beautiful to watch. Depending on how the situation is in the finances, you can employ traditional dancers as well. Then you go to the groom's place some weeks later to repeat the same thing. So it's quite a joyous, extravagant, celebratory affair.
So the wedding date is which one now? The first one or the second one, or your wedding date, your wedding anniversary is the week?
Well, I missed that one. Usually you go with the bride and the parties of both to the registrar's office, and that would be another special ceremony where you're counseled by the registrar. The registrar is usually a justice, and they'd counsel you, and then you sign the papers, and that would be your wedding day, essentially.
Okay.
That would be the day you celebrate as having been united, and then the other days plan as you go.
Well, you can. It's almost like celebrating a week. I would just take advantage and say, listen, this is my anniversary week.
Yeah. Except you have these two systems mixing, you see, the Western system and the traditional system. And usually for work, they respect the laws of the West.
You talked a little bit about you talked a little bit about food. What would be one dish that you would say you must try if I came there?
The seswa I told you about would be one very attractive dish. But the dinawa, with this mixture of maize and corn and peas and beans, is also a nice one, if depending on who cooks it. But it's also very good if you're a vegetarian or if you want to eat plant proteins only. The mixture of the maize and the beans sort of give you a perfect protein mix, because in some situations the legumes are deficient in one amino acid, the maize in another, but they complement each other quite perfectly. So those would be the two dishes I think I'd direct you to.
All right.
There are some drinks.
Go for the drinks. Yes.
Yeah. There are drinks which they're not as potent, for example, as rum punch, but you have some traditional brews which are quite wholesome as well, which in some situations the commercial system tried to suppress the brewing of these traditional beverages, but they are also quite healthy, and a few of them may punch you in the face if you take too much, but there are also those available.
All right. So when people learn that you're Jamaican, what typically happens?
Well, Jamaica, what you find internationally, it's quite a pleasant experience, if I may say so, based on the reactions I get. But it's always excited response, and questions about, Bob Marley, Usain Bolt, and the people who went before him, and so on. And the desire to go there, because people are really attracted to the music, as well as the athletics and the other features we are very popular for. But it's always a pleasant experience. I perceive for them it's a pleasant experience. And it usually opens doors as well. You don't need a passport after that. even at the immigration, the guy sees your passport, whether it's in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, South Africa. It's a gateway which opens up for you when the
Yeah,
revelation occurs.
I since I've been doing this series, I've learned that it's a major almost like a VIP passport in some cases when you say it. One person mentioned she and her husband went to a restaurant and
Mm-hmm.
she got her food free because she was Jamaican and he had to pay. And he had to pay.
Yeah,
uh,
I, I, I
Mexico.
I haven't
It
been
was
that,
a
I haven't
Mexico
been that,
interview.
I haven't been
You have
that
done
lucky.
it.
Mhm. But a lot of
You
other pleasantries, as expressed towards you, and
right.
just a welcoming, friendly, warm reception.
Good, good.
Mm.
Music. You touched a little bit on music. What are you hearing there? Do you hear reggae there in Botswana?
Yes, the people are very attracted to reggae. The Zimbabweans, Botswana, Zambia, the entire African region, actually, continent, is very taken by reggae. And in a lot of the revolutionary struggles, reggae provided the source of inspiration for many groups. You know also the famous story about Bob Marley coming to Zimbabwe, I think it was
Yes.
1980, to see Mugabe had invited him to sing at the celebration and in the stadium, and it was rocking. He really rocked the stadium with his. I think he created a song about Zimbabwe. Not he dread it in a Zimbabwe. I and I liberate Zimbabwe. So it was very moving. Even the guys in West Africa, they use a lot of these revolutionary reggaetons. Also,
Yes.
when there's also an interesting story when Bob Marley was coming to um, Zimbabwe via Kenya, the Queen also sent Prince Charles to receive the flag of Zimbabwe. And so the Prince sent his envoy to invite uh, Marley to meet him. And Marley, of course, being the true Jamaican, said, well, if the Prince wanted to see I, let him come to I. And that was it. So the Prince never got to meet face to face.
I have a friend from Zimbabwe who a church brother who told me that story was the first I heard the story, and he said to me that inspired generations. That story of Bob Marley saying, "If you want to meet me, come and see
Come to
me in my
me.
hotel. Don't send someone to come to me. You come."
Come
And
here.
he, we don't know how inspirational till you hear it from like you and other people the music was. And as I said, my friend from Zimbabwe, he says this is the music we listened to during the time of oppression. This was our inspiration. and
Yeah,
and
man.
it sounds like you hear that from a lot of people there telling you how inspirational it was.
Well, I found it. I bought a set of Marley CDs, and I found the story in the narrative. But I found the reaction very interesting and exemplary because it's just a rejection of the historical practices, basically, which saw the royalty, who basically were owners and oppressors in many ways, as superior, and Marley, who is the subject, must make the move and passage and come to see him. And I thought that was a very big moment in Marley's mind, where he rejected this notion because we're all equal, and we don't, in any case, although it happened and it's a historical fact, we do not accept what happened, nor the present status quo, where you pay homage to this kind of history. I mean, so
Right.
I found that
Exactly.
quite impressive.
So, what's the biggest adjustment you would say you had to make when you first moved to Botswana?
Biggest adjustment, well, I usually I'm a humble character, so I'm very adaptable. But in terms of real adjustment, transportation was quite something you had to deal with, and get your car as early as you can, and also the availability of services in general. There were quite challenges, but Botswana now is, light years ahead of where it was when I came here. But
Okay.
also I talked about the easygoing nature of the people then, and if you wanted something done in a hurry, then you may have to find a very creative way to do it, to get it done, because there was a certain predictable pace at which things were done. Yeah, but other than that, it was my people essentially, and you rope in and interact and just continued. There were, if you wanted to eat traditional food, then there might have been some adjustments, not dramatic. There's things like turn corn meal and stuff like that, which they have. If you want to get fat and heavy, you'd eat a lot of it. If you don't want to, then you discriminate a bit about the things you indulge in.
Okay. So I know you. I believe you're landlocked, and South Africa is right there.
That's
I
right.
guess below, right below. So
In the
is
south, yeah.
there like a lot of commerce travel between both countries?
Oh yeah. I think easily South Africa may well be the major trading partner for Botswana. Yeah, there's intense communication,
Okay.
land mostly, but also air, and
Okay.
commerce is, the trucks, you go to the border, you see reams of trucks lined up at the borders. So it's very, very busy situation, and major trading partners.
Okay. What's the cost of living like in Botswana?
I
For
think
an example like, I don't know if you want to put it in US terms, like a medium restaurant, mid restaurant meal.
yes, I think it's relatively expensive. Okay, let me just take a hamburger for example. If you went to some shops, you can pay upward of say 100, 110, 120, depending on the, what you call it, the additives you put in it. Pula, 110 pula would be roughly now about 10 US dollars. I'm not sure how that compares to Jamaica, but that's quite
Yeah.
expensive in my view for a hamburger. In
Mm,
Botswana, I find in South Africa maybe it's a little bit reduced, but the cost of living here I think is quite high. There are things like mangoes. You
mm-hmm.
come here, you have to pay in some situations more than $1 for a mango. So when I could never bring myself to pay $1 for a mango. So usually if I see that price, I'd refuse to purchase the mango, which is maybe my favorite fruit, but that's the situation. So I think in general, one would say it's on the more expensive side, the cost of living.
All right. And in terms of the mango, it look like you're gonna have to grow your own mangoes then if you're not buying it.
Yeah, and one of the good things about the climate here, it seems to tolerate the winter very well, mild winter. It's a
Okay.
challenge. It's still a challenge to grow.
No, I remember some years ago, Botswana in the news because of some fines that they had there of early humans and so on. So I believe there's some historic things there. But my real question is this one: if I was to come to Botswana, what would be the thing that you say, Xavier, or viewers, you got to go and see this? I know I'm interested in that history part I mentioned earlier, but for some other
Mm.
folks, you got to go see this, or it may be an event that happens at a specific time of the year. And you say, Xavier, you got to go see this.
Yeah. Well, in terms of the history, which you're interested in, there's quite some interesting historical sites for you to see. There's, for example, the rock paintings in one of the national parks, which are quite interesting to see. And in terms of physical attraction, you would need to go to see the Okavango Delta. You must have heard about the Okavango Delta. It's essentially a river delta, which the river mostly goes underground, but in this area, it rises and spreads out, and it's a very beautiful tourist site and a very beautiful site for the animals, the wild animals to congregate and live. So there's another area called the Okavango Delta and a very extensive national park, which
Okay.
would be the highlight of my visit. But also the the the, the Victoria Falls is quite close to that area as well. So although it's in Zimbabwe, I usually try to make sure that visitors also traffic across the border to see the Victoria Falls in its splendor and beauty and power during the rainy season,
Yes.
especially. Mm.
Yes, I've heard about it and seen it, and if I ever head that in that direction, I know I can't come that far and don't see it.
And not see it. Yeah, that would be a must. Mm.
no, no. In terms of activities, what do you like to do? What do you really enjoy? You've been living there. What's the thing that you said, man, this is my thing. This is what I love doing here.
Yes. Well, I like to. There's a lot of what I just described to you is what I like to do most here. When the time is right and when the finances are right, to visit these areas and mostly these areas of recreation in terms of, but in terms of a day-to-day um, living protocol, I like to walk and I like to work out early in the mornings, and then I go to work and so on. But I do a lot of
Okay.
sports when I
Uh-huh.
have time, tennis, squash, stuff like that. But yeah, essentially those are the day-to-day things.
Right, right.
Mm.
I see. I see. So, listen, Esau, thanks again for giving us so much insight on the country and the people, the food, and so on. Winding down, I have a scenario for you. You land in Jamaica. What is that first thing you're doing once you get off the plane and you leave the airport?
Well, before I leave the airport, I drink about 2 coconut, 2 water coconut. And on the way from on the way home, at the very minimum, some patties, some Jamaican patties on the way, or even jerk if it's available.
So no Jamaican restaurants in Botswana?
Not yet, not yet. There's some people who attempt to, sometimes do some jerk and so on, but there's not a full-fledged Jamaican restaurant yet. But we plan to change. We plan to change that.
All right. So maybe by the time I visit, I'm walking into Esau's jerk place or Esau's Jamaican restaurant.
Yeah, or somebody inspired by Esau. Yeah.
So folks, you know what to bring for Esau. He wants his patties and his jerk. I don't know if you can smuggle the coconut on the plane, but the jerk and the patty, you might be able to get that by.
Yeah, man.
So how do you say goodbye in the most informal way? How do the people of Botswana say goodbye?
Goodbye. Okay, one would be Samaya Sintle.
Samaya Sintle.
Sintle is well. Samaya is go. Okay. So Samaya Sintle would be go well.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Well, Esau, thanks again for everything, and Samaya Sintle.
Sintle, yeah. And to you, my friend, beautiful talking to you.
Show some love now. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a video.